Hey guys, Pitmaster here. All right, I'm gonna talk about sparring. Let's talk about sparring. Most of you guys out there, I would assume, are martial artists, but I'm sure there's non-martial artists too out there. But let's just say you guys are martial artists. Okay, so there's been a big switch on sparring. I mean, it's changed drastically since I started back in 1970. 70. That's when I started training. And to be honest, like when I first started sparring, I was 9, 10 years old. I would pretty much go at it, but you know, I was a kid. I don't really remember. I don't remember getting beat up that bad. I remember it hurt a lot when you get kicked real hard to the stomach, and we didn't really punch to the face that much in my martial arts school. I remember I was like 13. I was sparring with an adult once, and he hit me in the face. And I remember we had those gloves that would just come right off, and I like threw the gloves down. I was crying, and I was like, "Fucker!" And I started like going after him, and my instructor like grabbed me by the gi and pulled me outside. He said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Oh, he hit me. I'm gonna hit him on my," you know. And he's like, "No, that's I'll go." So he went and beat the guy up for me. But the guy, but okay. So then when I got a little older, like 14, I started going to a boxing gym, and it was a whole different story. We were just like all out, punching to the face. There was no like, you never heard the word controlled. Nothing was controlled. You were just. It was like a mini fight. It was like a scrimmage every time you sparred. And that's the way it was in boxing gyms. Anybody that's been around boxing gyms, I don't know how it is now, but like anyone that's around boxing gyms in the 70s and 80s knows that when you sparred, it was just on. And then when I opened my school in 85, I just assumed that's the way it was supposed to be. So like when people came to the gym, and then when I did kickboxing, it was always just go for it. But then when I went open my own gym, like when people would come, they would say, you know, I'd say, "Okay, we're going to spar," and they'd say, "What are the rules?" And I would just say, "Golden rule, you know, hit as hard as you want to get hit." It's like fighting with headgear, which the headgear doesn't prevent any concussions. It helps prevent cuts. That's it. It doesn't make any... When you get hit in the chin, the headgear does not help. It helps from getting like headbutts or elbows or something like that. And that's the only thing headgear prevents is cuts. And your head, using your head as a weapon. Like if you came in too fast to throw a punch and you guys banged heads, if you have a headgear, it'll help. Or sometimes you're fighting, you miss a hook, you hit with the elbow. Sometimes the headgear might help. But it doesn't protect your chin. It does not do anything for knockouts or head trauma. So anyway, wearing a headgear is great for cuts, but it does nothing for head trauma, brain trauma. Okay, so how should you spar? So that's how I sparred from like when I opened my gym from 85, and testing was like, Cecil Peoples came to one of my green belt tests. I was testing some guy for green belt. And he actually said, "You're going to get arrested if this is how you do your testing. You cannot do this." And I was like, "Why?" It's because the guy was bleeding, and it was like he had to get like nose surgery after the test. I was like, "I want my guys to be tough, you know. They have to be tough or they're not going to promote." And that was my mentality. They have to know what it feels like, you know. What if they get hit in the street? I had that mentality. And every sparring match was a war. It really was. I remember when Chuck first started, every sparring match was a war. Glover, you know, it was like that. I don't know when exactly it changed, because when it started to change, like people weren't sparring as hard, they were drilling more, and I was like, no, when they fight, how are they going to know what it feels like? They have to get hit. So I was hesitant at first. So like in the very beginning of my, you know, it's going so hard, there's no way I wanted to change anything. If you want your belt, you're going to earn it, and you're going to earn it by a beating. And that's what sparring was about to me, proving how tough you were. I don't feel like that anymore. I really don't. It's not really the head trauma as much, because I don't think I have any brain trauma, even though a lot of people disagree. I've been fighting, full on fighting since 1974 until, I don't know when I stopped. Like, I don't know. I still spar once in a while, but I sparred hard probably up till, I'll say 2006. So I was going like full on sparring for most of my life, most of the days in my life, from like 1974 to like 2006. That's a lot of sparring. That's a lot of head trauma. And I think I'm pretty good. But I just don't think there's a need for it anymore in the sparring, for the martial arts gyms. If you want to be a fighter, you need to spar a little more. But like when people tell me, well, how are they going to get used to hitting in the, if they get hit in the street? I don't think they have to get used to getting hit in the street. I really don't. I don't think they have to get hit hard in the gym, in the face especially, to get used to, it for when it happens in the street. I just don't think that's mandatory. I'm sure there's people that train knives, but their knives usually look like this, right? So, I mean, how many guys that practice with this? Right? I mean, they're practicing for the street. Shouldn't they know how it feels to get cut? No, it doesn't work that way. There's too many injuries. So just like with the knives or practicing with a gun, right? The risks of getting hurt outweigh the benefits of knowing how it feels like to get hit in the street. I don't think that's mandatory anymore. I think sparring is good because you work on your timing and your defense and your distance and stuff. But I don't think you have to pound each other. Even guys train for a fight. I think that the real time freestyle sparring I do is much less than it used to, and I don't think there's any indication of that in the cage. Like my fighters that used to beat the shit out of each other, like in the face every sparring match, and they fought, to my guys now that probably drill 90% of the time and full contact spar maybe 1% of the time or 2% of the time, and then they semi-contact spar the other percentage. And I think they do just as well. They show just as much toughness and as much skill as my guys that used to go all out. So I don't think the results are any worse. I don't know if they're better or not, but they're definitely not any worse. And yeah, you do get... they do get that. There's that. There's a lot more pulling out of fights because of heavy sparring or heavy grappling too. People think grappling is really safe. We have more injuries in grappling, that's wrestling and jiu-jitsu, than I do in the stand-up sparring. Just because you just go one way and the guy has your arm this way, next thing you know he has a torn tendon. Or even in a takedown, he tries to defend this way and you turn the corner this way, now his fucking knee is blown. So you have to be very careful in your striking, but you also have to be very careful in your wrestling, sparring, and your jiu-jitsu. There has to be control, and it doesn't make you tougher to spar harder all the time. All fights end up on the ground. If somebody's knocked out, but other than that, no. I don't know, look at the UFC. I don't know how many of them do, but a lot of them end up on the ground for a second. How much of the fight with the Korean Zombie and Yair ended up on the ground? I don't know. Hey, thanks, brother. Thanks, Rory. But so I just don't think there's it's necessary. I think one thing is like when they're wrestling, I don't think there should be any takedowns during freestyle sparring. I think there should be controlled takedowns or half takedowns, because it's when, I'll tell you what, it's when two guys are freestyling and one guy is going for the takedown and the other guy is strongly trying to defend the takedown, and he's going one way and the other guy is going the other way, and the guy that's trying to take him down has a hold of his leg beneath the knee and the other guy's going out the other way, next thing you know, you got an injury. So I like half takedowns so they get used to defending, right? Or positioning for defense. But I don't want them fighting for the takedown. They do that during grappling, like when they're just doing the grappling and it's more drilling. So, yeah, well, guess what? Benny the Jet didn't let us wear shin guards when we sparred, and we did like full-on kicks and leg kicks and shit, and he didn't like his team, which I was on the Jet Center team, he didn't like us wearing shin pads. I don't know why. It didn't feel good. We had like, all of us, including me, we had like lumps on our shin like most of our career because we didn't spar or fight with shin pads on. But anyway, so that's how I feel about sparring, guys. I think drilling should take up the majority of it. Drilling, without a doubt, should be the bulk. Like if you put it into a pot, I would make drilling 75% of it. Just 75%. That's when you go over moves back and forth, like 4 punches in a sprawl, 4 punches in a sprawl. This a couple punches and a shot. Like tell them what punches so their muscle memory gets used to it. And I think that will benefit them much more in an actual fight than if they just went at it all the time sparring. So that's what we do more of now. Drilling, some light sparring, some specific sparring. So sometimes I'll say, all right, all out this, and this, go. That way they work on certain techniques more. Like, all right, left hook, a left hook and a head kick over and over. That's all you can use. And then so they kind of like, if they work on those techniques specifically, I'll do that sometimes. And then sometimes it'll be, all right, spar freestyle, but only 20% of the power with 100% of your speed. So they do that for a while. Sometimes when you do that, it ends up the 20% becomes 80% pretty quick. But I try. It's more control than it used to be. Just go. You know what I mean? So that's how I do my sparring in my class and my fighters actually. And they do have to drill a lot more for their testing, but then I add conditioning to it. So they have to drill a little light. Like I'll have them go full on to the body and then burpees, and then just keep doing those things until they're freaking exhausted. And to me, that tests their mental and physical toughness, as well as their mental and physical conditioning. So, thanks, bro. Yeah, and the main thing is to protect our fighters. It really is. And to be honest, I just don't see a need for it anymore. I really don't. So it's like, I think my fighters do just as good now as ever. And they hardly spar. Like if they went, I don't think they ever go like full on. My old fighters, the old team, they never didn't go all out. Yeah. Like I do some isolation sparring too. Like I'll even do like crazy shit. Like like okay, you can only do a spinning kick and a left hook to the body, a left hook to the liver. Or something crazy like that. And they just work on those techniques, and that helps them set up those techniques. You know what I mean? Because they're not just going to run in with a left hook to the liver. They're going to try to set it up with something else, like, and then, so we do that a lot. So, anyway, okay, can you train hard? Yeah, you can train really hard without injuries. If you spar them too hard, striking, they're going to get a lot of cuts and brain damage. Okay? If you wrestle them really hard, they're going to tear up their fucking knees. They'll always have bad knees. My orthopedic surgeon buddy told me that any given time at any NCAA wrestling team, Division I, 85% of the team has some type of, some degree of a knee injury. So, and then if you have them grapple, or if you have them do jiu-jitsu all out, they're always going to have a tweaked elbow or a tweaked shoulder. So any kind of sparring, you can't spar your way into shape. You just can't do that. There'll be too many injuries. They have to do cross training to get in shape. That's where they do their conditioning: cardio, strength, power, anaerobic, aerobic. You can't spar or grapple your way into shape because to get into shape you have to raise the intensity level a lot to get your heart rate up. But with sparring, if you go with that same intensity and there's actually punching and grappling against another person, you're going to be ridden with injuries. That's not the way to do it. It really isn't. So you can't grapple your way into shape. You can't spar your way into shape. You need to do something else. Okay? Just like you can't burpee your way into timing. You can't burpee your way into timing, and you can't spar your way into conditioning. Burpees are for the conditioning. Sparring is for the timing. What do you guys think? Any comments on that? I've gotten a few comments. I appreciate your comments, guys. You share this because I'm trying to, martial arts schools, you don't have to get in there and bang the shit out of each other. Your students shouldn't be punching each other in the face all the time. They should be throwing jabs to the face a lot and controlling to the face, because you do want to keep your hands up. Because if you only go to the body, you'll be like this Kyokushin Kai guys, and they don't even defend their face. They're just so used to going to the body. You should be used to defending your face, so they should keep you honest with a jab here, a fake to the face. So you should always keep your hands up. You should never just go to the body. Never, ever. That's terrible. But yeah, they do a lot of places. Yeah, a lot of places, a lot of Muay Thai gyms do that. Or a lot of boxing gyms do it all the time. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Any more questions, comments about that? That's how I feel about sparring. I'll do a longer video on it soon. And if you guys have any questions about sparring, whether you have a martial arts gym, traditional, a kickboxing team, an MMA team, or you just want to train with your friends. If you have any questions about sparring, I'm kind of an expert on sparring. Seriously, without a doubt. I don't know many people that know more about sparring than I do. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. So if you got any questions about, and that's not because I'm that good, it's just because I'm that old. If you have any questions about sparring, feel free to personally message me. Don't leave it on comments, but personally message me. I will respond. Or text me, tweet me, Instagram me. Check out my Instagram. It's Pit_Master. All right? Pit_Master. Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks for coming.